The restaurant smelled of roasted coffee beans and freshly baked bread, the kind of warmth that wrapped around you when the world outside felt too cold to bear. It was a small corner cafe in Manhattan, tucked between the glass towers that glittered with wealth and loneliness. Among the quiet clatter of dishes and soft jazz music, Emma moved gracefully between tables, carrying trays, refilling cups, and flashing shy smiles that seemed to hide 1,000 unspoken words. Emma was known as the quiet one. She never shouted orders or chatted with customers like the other waitresses. But when someone looked closely, they noticed her eyes, deep hazel, soft and full of understanding, as if she could listen even when no words were spoken. Few knew her secret. Emma couldn't speak. Born with a vocal cord condition, she had lived in silence her entire life. She had learned to communicate through sign language, facial expressions, and gestures. To most people it was unusual, to some even uncomfortable, but for Emma silence was her world. She had made peace with it. Still, every day when she served customers, she wondered what it would feel like to have her voice, to say thank you out loud, to sing along with the music she loved, to speak her heart. Yet she never complained. She smiled, worked hard, and sent kindness out into the world in her own quiet way. One evening, as the sky turned gold, the door of the cafe swung open. A man stepped in, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month. His name was Ethan Cole, CEO of one of the largest real estate firms in New York, a billionaire known for his cold efficiency and relentless ambition. But tonight Ethan didn't look powerful. His eyes were tired, his expression distant, the weight of something invisible pressing down on him. He had spent the past year watching his world crumble in silence. His mother, Margaret Cole, had lost her hearing completely after a stroke. Once a vibrant woman who loved classical music and long conversations, she now lived in a world of soundless isolation. Ethan had tried everything, treatments, technology, expensive specialists, but nothing brought her joy back. And though he provided everything money could buy, he couldn't give her the one thing she missed most, connection. Ethan took a seat by the window, scrolling through emails while waiting for his coffee. Emma approached quietly, her notepad in hand. "Good evening, sir," she signed with her hands, then realized he couldn't understand her. She smiled shyly and pointed to the menu. Ethan barely looked up. "Americano. Black," he muttered. She nodded, wrote it down, and walked away. A few minutes later, as she placed the cup before him, her bracelet slipped, a small silver charm shaped like a musical note. Ethan noticed it and frowned. "You play music?" he asked. Emma shook her head gently, then touched her throat and moved her fingers to sign, "I can't speak." Ethan's expression softened for a second before the mask of indifference returned. "Right," he said quietly. "You can't speak. Sorry." But as she walked away, something about her lingered in his mind. The calmness, the quiet strength, the way she communicated without a sound. It reminded him of his mother. Over the next few weeks, Ethan began coming to the cafe more often. At first it was for the coffee. Then it was for the peace he found there, and for Emma. She never asked who he was. She didn't care about his wealth, his fame, or the headlines that called him the Ice King of Wall Street. She treated him like any other customer, with a gentle smile and quiet grace. One afternoon, Ethan found himself watching her as she helped an old man order by writing notes on a napkin. The way she bent slightly, making sure he understood, the kindness in her gestures, the patience in her eyes, it stirred something in him. When she came to his table, he asked, "Where did you learn sign language?" She quickly took out the small notebook she always carried and wrote, "I taught myself. My mom lost her hearing when I was little. She passed away, but I kept learning, for her." Ethan read the words twice, then smiled sadly. "My mother's deaf too," he said quietly. "She lost her hearing last year. She doesn't talk to anyone anymore." Emma looked at him for a long moment, then placed a gentle hand on her chest and signed slowly, "You can still talk, through your heart." He didn't understand the signs, but he felt the meaning. For the first time in months, Ethan's heart stirred. A week later, Ethan's mother's birthday approached. He planned a small family dinner but dreaded it. Margaret hardly responded to anyone anymore. The house felt like a museum, full of luxury but empty of laughter. On a sudden impulse, Ethan stopped by the cafe. Emma was wiping tables when he walked in. "Would you?" he hesitated. "Would you consider helping me with something?" She blinked, surprised. "My mother," he said. "She's deaf, like you use sign language. Maybe you could teach me, so I can talk to her again." Emma's eyes softened. She nodded immediately. That evening, they sat in the corner booth after closing hours. She wrote on her notepad, "Let's start with the basics." She showed him how to sign hello, I love you, thank you, beautiful. Ethan struggled at first, his large hands clumsy. Emma laughed silently, a soundless giggle that lit up her face. He found himself laughing too. They practiced for hours, and as their fingers danced through the air, something invisible bridged the space between them, not romance yet, but a shared understanding of silence, of longing, of wanting to connect. The night of Margaret's birthday arrived. Ethan arranged everything, flowers, soft lighting, her favorite cake, but he was nervous. What if she didn't respond? When his mother entered the dining room, he stood, heart pounding. Then, slowly, he signed the words Emma had taught him. Happy birthday, Mom. Margaret froze. Her eyes widened, filling with tears. For the first time in months, she smiled, a wide, trembling smile. She signed back, you learned this, for me. Ethan nodded, emotion choking him. That night, they talked for hours, with hands, with laughter, with tears. And when Margaret finally went to bed, she whispered, though she couldn't hear herself, you brought me back, my son. Ethan sat in the quiet house and thought of Emma. The next day, he returned to the cafe. But Emma wasn't there. The manager told him she'd taken the day off. He left his business card and a note, you gave me back my mother. I owe you everything, please call me. A few days later, she appeared at his office, nervous, holding her small notepad. You didn't have to come, he said gently, but I'm glad you did. She wrote, your note scared me a little. I thought I did something wrong. He smiled, you did something right, something incredible. He stood, walked to the window, and said quietly, I realized I've been surrounded by noise all my life, meetings, calls, deals, but I never listened. Not really, until you. Her eyes glistened. She signed softly, the heart hears what ears cannot. That was the moment Ethan knew he'd never look at silence the same way again. Time passed. Ethan continued his lessons with Emma, but they became more than lessons. She helped him organize charity programs for people with hearing disabilities. Together they opened the Silent Hope Foundation, funding schools and job opportunities for the deaf community. The media called it a billionaire's redemption, but for Ethan it was more personal. It was about honoring the people who taught him to listen, his mother and the shy waitress who spoke through her hands. At one of the foundation's events, Margaret attended proudly, watching from her wheelchair as Ethan gave his first public address partially in sign language. The crowd erupted in applause, but his eyes searched for one person. Emma stood in the front row, tears streaming down her face. After the speech, Ethan walked to her, signed thank you, and then, with trembling hands, signed I love you. Emma covered her mouth, shaking her head in disbelief, then smiled, her eyes shining brighter than any words could express. She signed back, I love you too. They married a year later, a quiet ceremony by a lake, attended by close friends and family. No music played, yet somehow it was the most beautiful soundless symphony ever felt. When Ethan slipped the ring on her finger, he whispered, you taught me the language of love, without a single word. And Emma, smiling through tears, signed, love doesn't need sound. It only needs heart. Years later their story spread across the world, from news articles to social media. People called it the miracle in silence. At a global charity event, a journalist asked Ethan what changed him the most. He looked at Emma beside him, holding his hand, and said, I used to believe power came from speaking louder than everyone else. But she showed me that true power is in listening, even when no words are spoken. Emma smiled, leaned close, and signed something only he could understand. He laughed softly, kissed her forehead, and turned back to the crowd. In that moment, silence filled the room, not empty, not awkward, but sacred. Because sometimes the loudest voices come from the quietest hearts.